we're about ready to go here. Set up the screen a bit. All right, that's good. We are there, so. Alrighty, hello everyone, and welcome to the Well Played Podcast. Thank you for joining me. I'm Warren Curtis, and welcome to day 2 of our special coverage of the Summer of Gaming. Today we had the Summer Game Fest. We co-streamed that a little bit earlier. I want to thank everyone who joined me on that. It was a fun time, and I can't wait to do the next live stream, which happens on Sunday with the Xbox Showcase and the Starfield Direct. That happens at about 1 p.m. Eastern. We'll be going live. The placeholder is live or active right now on our YouTube channel, so you can go in there. You can select that placeholder for the Xbox Showcase and select the Notify Me button, and it'll just give you an alert when the show actually does go live, which will be about 12:45 or so. Today we also had the Day of the Dev show after the Summer Game Fest show, and we had the Devolver Digital Direct. So we do have some games to cover, and we have some things to talk about. Before we get to it, you can get more from me on Twitter by following Amarin Studios. That is AMARRENSTUDIOS on Twitter. You can subscribe to us on YouTube, or you can subscribe to the audio visions of these shows through whatever podcast provider you have. So let's get into it. The Summer of Game Fest, hosted by Jeff Keighley, or Key 3 as some have been calling it, kicked off the Summer of Gaming earlier today with a show that, well, it was a little bit mild. I don't think it really did disappoint. Well, we won't be talking about every game that was announced today because there's still quite a bit. We're going to talk about the interesting ones. The show opened up with a bang, if I may say so myself. Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown was there with not only an announcement trailer, but a release date. It looked pretty impressive, I would say. It's it's in the 2D style. It's a platformer. And it's looking really good. There was a Prince of Persia remake in the works at Ubisoft for quite some time, and then it got rebooted. That was a couple years ago that happened. We weren't really anticipating anything Prince of Persia related because that was the only thing really on the radar was this reboot. And they've been very open and honest and candid about what's been the problem there with that. So hearing this come out of Summer Game Fest was really exciting. And it's a brand new game in the series. It's not a reboot. It's not a remake. It's a whole new game, and it's an action platformer, which is always a fun time. One of my favorite genres of games. So I'm glad that they've done this. It looks fun. We'll be playing it sooner than expected as well, with a January 18th release date, January 18th, 2024. So just after the holiday window. Obviously that could move around a bit. We're still a bit a ways from there, but that's still much sooner than I was expecting to be able to be playing a Prince of Persia game. So I'm kind of excited. Following that, we had Mortal Kombat 1 was there. Now, Mortal Kombat 1, we got kind of a good trailer for. They just released a trailer with the PlayStation show. But we got a much more in-depth look at kind of the story, and that gives us the reasoning behind why they went from numbering it. Mortal Kombat 11 was the last entry to Mortal Kombat 1. So they did talk about how Mortal Kombat ended with kind of Liu Kang ascending to become a fire god, and well, now he's a fire god, and it's kind of the rebirth of the series. So we're back to Mortal Kombat 1. We got to look at a lot of the fatalities in the game. Honestly, the blood gushing sound, it's stuck with me still from that. It looks really awesome. It looks like a fun game. It's Mortal Kombat. It's what we've come to expect out of Ed Boon and those folks at NetherRealm that have been making these games forever. And it was really good. Ed Boon actually was there to talk about it. He was up on stage, and him and Jeff Keighley discussed all the mechanics of the game and things like that. They also discussed that Jean-Claude Van Damme is in the game as Johnny Cage, which is perfect because for those that don't know, Johnny Cage was inspired by Van Damme. Originally, Johnny Cage being an original Mortal Kombat character, and that's because the first Mortal Kombat game started out life as Bloodsport, the game. So it's kind of like a full circle thing here. Jean-Claude Van Damme coming in to voice the character that he inspired. They also showed off a new function in the game, or a new mechanic called Cameo, where you get to pick another special fighter. So if you pick like Sub-Zero, you could pick whatever fighter, doesn't matter who it is. If you're Sub-Zero, you could pick Sub-Zero even if you wanted, or Scorpion, or Jax, or whoever, Johnny Cage probably. You could pick these characters to be not necessarily like a tag team, but like it's almost like a special power that you can call in to aid you, and they will come in and deliver an attack. So you hit the button, the power button, which, in previous games it was like the right shoulder button, I think. So like R1 on the PlayStation, and that would activate your special power. Well, in this case, it's activating this Cameo, and it's contextually sensitive. So if you're pushing up, down, left, right, or whatever on your stick, it will activate a certain set of moves for that character, and it's kind of all depending on the positioning of your character, what is happening and all that, and what character's there. So it's kind of looking really cool with that. So excited for that. That's coming later on this year too. So good times. They also had Street Fighter 6 and Exoprimal announcing a collaboration. Now they're both Capcom games. So there's a collaboration coming this holiday for that. And hey, you're going to be able to play as Ryu fighting dinosaurs. So that seems kind of cool. We'll get to see what that looks like. They called it Collab 1. So I'm assuming there's another collab. And if I was a betting person, Street Fighter coming from Capcom, Exoprimal's their big release this year. I'm going to assume it's going to be something out of Resident Evil, being the second one, but we'll have to see. Then we got to the awkward celebrity moment. We've talked about these being a staple of Keighley events in the past, right? Like, we never know who they're going to be. We never really have a clue who it's going to be at all. And then we had, Al Pacino walk out, who didn't have a clue who anyone was or why he was there. Then we had Michael Madsen, who didn't give a shit who anyone was or why he was there. And then we had The Rock. He did like a Zoom call from his mobile gym fortress thing. And he drank an energy drink, his energy drink. And he kind of said, "Enjoy your gaming" at the end. So we've had kind of all sorts of these awkward celebrity moments where they're not exactly sure why they're there. And this time it wasn't anything like that. It was the king of all celebrities, right? It was Nick Cage, right? And when I say king of all celebrities, you kind of got to understand it's Nick Cage. Like, even if he isn't the king, he is the king of all celebrities. So, anyways, and it wasn't a phone call. It wasn't a video. It wasn't a Skype thing. It was live in person on the stage right beside Jeff Keighley in probably the nicest suit Nick Cage owns. And it wasn't really that awkward. He was sincere and he was candid and he was entertaining. He was charming. He was everything that you would expect a normal guest to be like. So it was actually kind of a different departure for that, I thought. Anyways, he knew exactly what he was talking about, which was his character in Dead by Daylight, and that's why he was there to talk about this new character in Dead by Daylight. In Dead by Daylight, Nick Cage plays, and here's the stretch here, he plays an Oscar award-winning actor named, cue the drum roll, Nick Cage, who is on his way to film a movie when he encounters some undead, and now he has to fight for survival. I'm probably going to have to check this out when it drops. It drops July 25th. So, yeah, like it is quite possibly one of the most interesting kind of crossover things I've seen, and the fact that it's got Nick Cage in it, who never holds back, I think it's going to be quite interesting. And then because somebody out there is actually answering prayers, we're finally getting a new 2D Sonic game in the form of Sonic Superstars, and that's coming this fall. I'm stoked. I always loved getting absolutely frustrated and fed up with the original Sonic game, so it'll be great to get, frustrated and fed up with a brand new Sonic game. And it's a 2D entry. I love 2D Sonics. The 3D ones, not so much, but the 2D ones are always fun, and they're games that I would like to be better at. So, there's that. Then we had The Lies of P. Now, if you've never heard of The Lies of P before now, brace yourself. Okay, so you've heard of Soulsborne games or Souls-likes. Those are like not the Elder Scrolls, Elden Ring, Demon Souls, Bloodborne. Okay, so these monstrously hard and challenging games that are relentless and don't let you give up, but on the other hand, make you want to give up. And they're usually gory and they're very dark. The Lies of P is one of those games, except for it's a retelling of Pinocchio. So there's that. Anyways, The Lies of P, which is this dark and gory retelling of Pinocchio in a Souls-like game, it got this awesome trailer that if you haven't been captured by the game yet, I think watching this trailer would capture you. It's day one on Game Pass, which is an advantage if you have that. And it's coming September 19th. So that is super exciting. And then we were joined by Sam Lake. He is the Finnish creative director of Alan Wake 2. So he's super nice fellow, very well spoken up there, and talking about Alan Wake and or Alan Wake 2. So he wasn't talking about the character, he was talking about the game. And he came out in this velvet suit, which I'm only bringing up because I brought up Nick Cage's suit. So Nick Cage was not the best dressed guy there. This guy had a velvet suit that went up to Nick Cage's. Anyways, he was talking about how this game, it has two playable protagonists. So that's good. We got a good shot of what was happening through the eyes of this one protagonist, which is an FBI agent. And the story content is pretty much split 50-50 in between the two protagonists, and you can switch kind of freely in between them. I imagine there's certain points where that's blocked, but otherwise you can pretty much switch in between them at any time, no issues. And after that, we got the best soundtrack of the show when Toxic Commando took the screen. The Bon Jovi song Shot Through the Heart was playing while a group of these well-organized militia types were mowing down wave after wave of the undead in a first-person shooter game. It worked. It worked really well. It had that campy feel, and then you realize it is from the mind of John Carpenter. So, yeah, it needs to have that kind of campy, cheesy feel. This isn't a licensed deal. It's not like, John Carpenter wrote this thing and, we licensed this existing thing from him. He's actually acting as a creative lead on this game. So, like, it's cheesy, it's fun looking. I think all that's okay. It's okay to have that campiness in certain things, and this is one of those things. Horror, it usually works well in a horror aspect. So this is cool, and it's coming out in 2024. Um, then, as promised, I heard last minute from a very reliable source that PlayStation would be there, and I said that before the live stream, and they were there with Spider-Man 2. Which isn't like a new announcement or anything, but what they did have is we got a good look at the box art and some more details about the game, kind of the scale of it and how that all kind of shapes in, that there's Queens and Brooklyn and all that in there too. But most importantly, we got a release date, which was October 20th. That moves it completely out of the way of Starfield, which I think was kind of their goal probably, but it might be landing in the way of Call of Duty 2023. We'll see. Call of Duty usually drops mid-October to early November, so it's kind of in that window. It's not exactly a perfect, Venn diagram of the same types of players, but both are very important to Sony, and it'd be interesting to see how that pans out with it. But we will know when they do some Call of Duty announcements coming up. After that, we got a look at a game which Keeley himself described as Pokemon with guns. And boy, was he pretty much right. Pal World is the name of the game, and it looks exactly like a legally distinct Pokemon game, but with guns. I'm not sure what else I can tell you about that. Like, I mean, if that description doesn't fill in all the gaps, I don't know what will. Early access for that one comes in early 2024, I believe they said. So we'll have to wait a little bit to see what that feels like, but Pokemon with guns is something kind of unique in and of itself, I would say. Then Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis, which is the mobile battle royale thing that Square Enix, or Squeenix as I love to call them, seems to want to make for some reason. It got a trailer. It's basically what you would expect from that. It looks very much like Final Fantasy VII. The remake, Final Fantasy VII remake kind of style graphics. But it's a battle royale, and it's on a phone, not on a console, not on a PlayStation, not on a computer. It's kind of weird. There's a closed beta on Android for it right now. So if it does seem like something up your alley, go sign up for that. You can sign up for that on the website if that tickles you anyways. And then we get into a Warren game here. The formerly known as Yakuza game series is now called Like a Dragon. Has a new spin-off called Like a Dragon Gaiden, The Man Who Erased His Name. Like, I love the Yakuza games. I mean the Like a Dragon games. So this is right up my alley. In it, we see Kiryu Kazuma, who we last saw in the mainline game in Yakuza 6, The Song of Life, where he, in a way that most definitely didn't make me cry, gave up everything so his adoptive daughter could live safely with her child, and that kind of ended his story. He briefly appeared as a secondary character in Yakuza 7, Like a Dragon, which is now called Like a Dragon, Like a Dragon. That game follows the story of Ichiban Kasuga. The game stepped away from that traditional action-based combat, so like real-time fighting, to a turn-based combat system with the traditionally Japanese RPG style elements, skill trees and you can call in companions to give you help and things like that. So they did a departure from that. This game, the Man Who Erased His Name, appears to have Kiryu, who's been in hiding for obvious reasons from the events of the previous game, come out of hiding to provide protection to someone in need. The combat is action-based. It's traditional Yakuza game combat. It looks phenomenal. It looks like they've really brought in some extra polish to it and brought in some new ideas. This makes me so happy. This one comes out November 9th. So like, it's going to be a busy holiday season for me, but it looks really, really good. Um, so excited for that. Uh, we also got a sneak peek at Fortnite Wilds, which drops tomorrow. It's just kind of a trailer showing the new season of Fortnite, really. Um, Cybertron. So we had some Transformers crossover in there. I imagine that ties into the movie somehow. Um, yeah, it is what it is. Like, I mean, I was saying during the broadcast earlier that I hope that if society crumbles and like mankind is doomed or whatever, and the only last remnant on this planet of humanity is the video for this Wilds expansion. Um, and that some advanced race comes by and completely out of context has to watch this thing and try to figure out why they have like fish looking things driving dirt bikes and Ariana Grande with a rocket launcher and all that fun stuff. So it would be interesting. I think that would be hilarious. Then we got a couple looks at other things as well through the show. We got a look at The Witcher season 3. We got a first look trailer of that, which is the last season that Henry Cavill will be playing Gerald. I need a drink. It'll be the last time he's playing Geralt, and Liam Hemsworth will be taking over for season 4. It looks good. I think it's going to be the last season of that show most people watch, to be honest, but well, we'll have to see. And we also got a look at the Twisted Metal TV show, which that stars Anthony Mackie and Will Arnett. And Will Arnett plays, what is his name? Sweet Tooth. And, well, he plays the voice of Sweet Tooth. Somebody else plays the body of Sweet Tooth. And Anthony Mackie plays like a new character. And they were in a scene where neither of them are shooting at each other from vehicles. So I guess maybe we probably need to temper our expectations on that show. Anyways, it comes to Peacock later. They didn't give a date, at least that I caught. And I don't know if there is a date confirmed for that, but it probably comes this season, this fall broadcast season on Peacock, which is the NBC streaming service in the US. We don't get it up here, I don't think, in Canada, but not about to go sign up for it for this. I'm sure it'll be on something else. Anyways, and then there was the one last thing, and somehow Keeley kept not only this as a secret, but he managed to actually get his hands on it. It was Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, so the next expansion of the Final Fantasy VII remake. We got to look at quite a good hunk of the game. And it comes out in early 2024 for the PS5, and it'll be on 2 discs, which is absolutely incredible and probably completely not necessary, but like 2 discs, 2 Blu-ray discs, that's a serious amount of data. That's like almost 200 gigabytes of data, like in compressed format. So that's bonkers, right? Like when it's installed on your hard drive, it's uncompressed. So like when you're downloading like Call of Duty and it's 200 gigabytes, it's uncompressed. It's not even optimized. Activision doesn't take the time to optimize that. So this being that big in a compressed format on disc makes me wonder what the heck's in it, other than maybe 90 hours of cutscenes or something. 90 hours of cutscenes at 4K 60 frames does soak up a bit of space, I would imagine. Anyways, all in all, that was kind of the Summer Game Fest. There was some other stuff there, but nothing, I think, really crazy. Remnant 2 was there. We got Baldur's Gate 3, got a little bit of a tease there as well. So, some stuff, some Star Trek, a Star Trek movie, Star Trek Academy, I think it was called. Nothing kind of crazy out of the way. Nothing super secret AAA really popped up there that we weren't really expecting. I think the biggest thing that we weren't expecting to be there was this Final Fantasy and the Prince of Persia, which bookended the show. But just like Keeley said, it would be wall-to-wall announcements, which it was. Everything in there was relatively new or completely new. And he said there would be 3 or 4 things that kind of everyone would be like, ooh, yeah, that's for me. And I think he nailed it. There's, you know, three or four things there that I was like, yeah, I'm definitely checking it out, or now you've got my interest. So it makes sense. And my expectations were kind of in line with what was there. There was a couple things, as I said, that was just right up my alley. So, you know, it is what it is. I give it realistically, I'm giving that like a solid 7.5 out of 10. It was much better, I think, than last year's show, but at least for me. But you know, I realize it wasn't everybody's bag. I was talking to some people on Twitter, and they were saying, you know, there just wasn't anything really there, um, which I kind of get. But you know, if you're expecting big AAA stuff, you're not really going to get that at a Keeley event. That's not really his thing. He's, as I've said before, he's tends to be more indie related, and then he does get those one or two big AAA announcements. But if you know your thing wasn't Prince of Persia and Final Fantasy this year, you probably really didn't care about what was talked about. So, then there was Day of the Devs, and out of that, the big standouts to me was Beastie Ball, which is a turn-based volleyball RPG, and that comes from the makers of the absolutely lovely Chicory: A Colorful Tale. Um, it just seems like a very fun concept for a game, and an interesting idea, and the artwork on it looked really neat and impressive. It, you know, it's an indie game. It is what it is. Um, and what it lacks for in, you know, these high res, high quality graphics that you see in AAA games, it makes up for with heart and amazing artwork done and things like that. So, anyways, it comes to PC next year in 2024. So we'll take a look and see what that looks like when it comes. But it looks interesting. And then another one that's really interesting, at least as far as I'm concerned, was a game called Mars First Logistics, which it's a physics open world simulation game where users run a courier business on the red planet, you know, on Mars. And they have to overcome challenges as the Mars colony expands. They have to spread out and get further, right? And they have to be able to reach further distances and carry more product and things like that. So I think the players of that game, of those games, kind of like those challenges. I'm one of them that like working with that, and the fact that it's physics based means that there's going to be creative ways to circumvent those hurdles. It comes to PC in 2024 as well, so that'll be something to check out. Then we got the Devolver Digital Direct, which is usually my favorite show every year, and this year it's no different. It is my favorite. I'm not going to even ruin the premise of the presentation. They don't do a presentation like having somebody on a stage going, "These are the games," blah 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 blah. They do a spoof of that. They usually act like they're a much bigger company than what they are. They usually break the fourth wall a little bit, and what they do is they hire actors to come in and do this presentation, but in an insane way, to the point where, you know, in one show we had somebody get beheaded on stage. Obviously they weren't really beheaded, but they used, you know, theatrical graphics and all that to make it look like it was done, or theatrical effects. And then this year they revitalized a, you know, very sacred and beloved character from their past, Volvi, which never existed before, but, you know, they did this whole thing where they're bringing back Volvi, and it's the return of Volvi. Anyways, standing at tall at this show, there was two games that really stood out at it. The Talos Principle 2, which the Talos Principle 1 came out in like 2014. It's a puzzle solving game using physics and you know, advanced methods like that. This one looks like that. It's an Unreal game, I think, and it's just a super shiny puzzle solving game in a physics environment, which that sounds really fun and really cool. And then Baby Steps, which is a walking simulator, which is a thing, where in this one, the thing is you control each leg independently. So, you know, on a PlayStation controller, the right thumbstick would run the right leg and the left thumbstick would run the left leg, and you got to push it forward, pull it back, right? And otherwise you just fall over. and you're controlling each leg independently in a physics environment. So, you fall over and then you slide down a hill, and that hill's full of mud. So then you slide down quicker, and things like that. The official statement, and I'm going to read this directly from the press release, is it's a world that seems to come alive with a dynamic soundtrack built up out of 420 beats and vibes, in addition to fully simulated physics-based walking. That's from the official press sheet. It looks pretty fun, and it's coming to PC and PS5 next year in 2024. What can I say? That basically wraps up the shows for the day. That was, I think, a pretty good smorgasbord assortment of games for the first day of Summer Game Fest. I think it was pretty good. Tomorrow's the Tribeca Game Spotlight, which is another independent game kind of showcase. So there might be some cool stuff come out of that, because it's usually more unique and creative games that are at the Tribeca Game Spotlight, but it's usually a small selection of things, because they're trying to do the cream of the crop, kind of like what Tribeca does with films. So they're doing that, and that is about it for gaming news for tomorrow, or gaming releases tomorrow as far as announcements. So I really only have one snippet of news today that is kind of relevant. We'll talk a bit more about it tomorrow, but I wanted to kind of talk about it now because it just broke about 45 minutes ago, maybe an hour ago. This comes from Hollywood insider Jeff Snyder, who is a pretty reliable source within the Hollywood industry, apparently. And this comes through like the Deadline Hollywood magazine, so it is a reputable organization. Anyways, he says that Nintendo and Universal, they decided to take a big look at that pile of money sitting in the corner that the Mario movie just made, and they want to do more of that. So apparently they're really close to a deal for The Legend of Zelda being adapted into a movie, which I'm all for if it's done right. Zelda being one of the most beloved IPs in my mind. You see behind me here, I have nothing but Zelda stuff, and a Pip-Boy box, and then more Zelda stuff and more Fallout stuff. You kind of get where I'm coming from here. I love Zelda, I love Fallout. Those are my two most favorite series. And Zelda getting adapted into a series or into a movie would be very interesting. I would imagine to be, because it's Illumination, so it's animation. There's a way to do it right. My biggest concern with it, and it's a bit of a concern with anything that gets adapted from a video game to a movie, really, is how the characters react. And in Zelda, notoriously, even in the ones that have voice acting, Link doesn't voice act. He doesn't talk. Link speaks more through his silence than he could ever do with words. And there is kind of a stoicism about that gets kind of imprinted onto Link. And I don't necessarily want him to lose that by being funny or doing fart jokes, which is what Illumination loves to do. And, this is the Minion people, right? So I do have a bit of concern with that. I have a bit more concern with them handling it than I did with the Mario movie. The Mario movie turned out great, so we'll have to see. And that would be quite a few years away even at that, because I imagine the next thing in that studio's pipeline will be a direct sequel to the Mario movie. Anyways, other than that, there really isn't any other news to cover. There was a couple leaks. I can't really confirm or deny either of them, so I'm not really going to address them until I do see one way or the other what way they went. One thing I did want to talk about, though, there was a noticeable absence of CD Projekt Red at the show, which was weird because they said they were going to be there. Well, it turns out they were at the press junket before the show, so they're at the industry only side of it, which is kind of weird. And like they got this new DLC for Cyberpunk 2077, the Phantom Liberty DLC. they are going to try to promote, because it's going to come out here soon, I would think. Um, Kind of weird that they weren't there, but I think that maybe that DLC, it could show up kind of anywhere else, but I think the best spot for it to show up now would be the Xbox showcase in some way, shape, or form. So, maybe we see that. We also didn't get any Elden Ring or DLC or Armored Core 6 stuff, but that could easily slide into just about anything else. Probably be at Gamescom or even the Tokyo Game Show. Gamescom being in August, so maybe they just didn't have anything ready quite yet to show. Be interesting. Like, both of that's supposed to come this year, so it'll be interesting to see where that does land. Maybe they just do a tweet. Who knows? Anyways, tomorrow we're up to our usual weekly program, so Amanda's going to be back here. We're not going to do a live broadcast tomorrow for that. We're just going to do our normal thing. So she'll be here, so please come in, join us. As always, thank you for joining me tonight, and we will see you next time. Thank you.